day everyone, I am Abigail Ramirez and I will be presenting to you about developing a need-based language resource. And this will be the guiding objectives for our discussion. First, determine the uses of language resource. Second, identify examples of language resource. And the last one, develop a need-based language resource center. Aside from that, I will also present one research study conducted in line with this language resource center model. According to Brainly.in, there are two reasons why we need to develop resources. First is that resources are limited. Second, resources are unevenly distributed. In order to prevent wastage, development of resources are necessary. The same also when we talk about language learning, we need to develop more resources in language to make our lessons interesting, to become learning easy, and enable language teachers to easily express concepts. And now, let us explore the world of language resource. But what do we mean by language resource? The term language resource refers to a set of speech or language data and descriptions in machine-readable form, and that is according to Elra Resources. In a narrower sense, language resource is specifically applied to resources that are available in digital form. It would either be in textual, multimedia and lexical data, grammars, and language models, in machine-readable form, or either in tools, technologies, or services used for their processing and management. Language resource, this is a core resources for the software localization and language services industries for language studies, electronic publishing, international transactions, subject area specialists, and end users. Spanning data collection, or PURA, software, research papers are very vital language resources. Given that there are many languages, communicating with another whose language is different is very difficult. However, with the use of this modern technology, bridging the gap of cultures is now possible with the use of any language resources and with the help of any language resource center. According to Bird and Simons in 2003, language resources includes data. Any information that documents or describes a language, such as a published monograph, a computer data file, or even a shoebox full of handwritten index cards. So this data represents the heart of the language resources, wherein this data should be made accessible to the broad community or in the field. Example of language data is a published monograph. It is a detailed written study of a simple specialized subject. A monograph is a book, a pamphlet, or document that is complete in itself. So language researchers publish their findings in monograph so their peers can review and validate their findings. This kind of published research document, this is what we already called a language resource. The teachers in the field can explore, find parallel studies about English language teaching. This kind of language resource can be a very good source of new innovation in the field of teaching. Language resource includes tools. Example, computational resources that facilitate creating, viewing, querying, or otherwise using language data. So these language tools are applications that support linguistic research. This includes lexical units, syntax, and semantics. So one example of language tools is this grammar checker. So what is this one? It is a software tools that attempt to verify whether a given statement is grammatically correct. So this spell checker is used for detecting and correcting misspelled word in a document. Language resource includes Advice. So what are examples of this advice? It is any information about what data sources are reliable, what tools are appropriate in a given situation, what practices to follow when creating new data. So this advice is referred to as best practices or the community standard. And now, let us deepen our knowledge to some examples of language resource. So the first one is we have written and spoken corpora. This contains transcripts of spoken and written language such as recorded conversations, phone call, or business meetings. So these situational day-to-day basis like phone calls, recorded conversations, or meetings can be considered as a language resource. However, we need to collect the data and we need to convert it into electronic files. So people build corpora of different sizes for specific reasons, like a very large corpus would require to develop a dictionary because a dictionary will contain millions of words. So these corpora will help language teachers to design materials for teaching the language. So how to create resources out of this written and spoken corpora? Data collection for a written corpus most commonly means using a scanner software, or they call it OCR, or optical character recognition software, to scan paper documents into electronic text files. So example, like most newspaper and many popular periodicals are now produced in both print version and electronic version, and it is now available on the World Wide Web, which provides an additional options for the collection of some documents, while the spoken corpus used a transcription system. That's why it is said to be lengthy and expensive. Another example of a language resource is this computational lexica. So according to Amsler in 1980, this is the use of computers in the study of machine-readable dictionaries. So dictionaries are made for people who are already understand much of the language, while computational lexica are made for machines that do not understand anything of the language. Third example of a language resource is this terminology databases. So this referred as glossary, which have source language key terms like acronyms, names, and titles or information. So this terminology database in this kind of language resource, it allows us to view the data in the database. So here is one example of basic database terminology. So as you can see, a relational database is data represented as a set of tables. So the tables can be viewed like a spreadsheet. So the first records rows data for one item or transaction. The fields, or as you can see, the columns represents different elements of data like the code, the title, the author, and the publisher. And then the key, this is the field that uniquely identifies the record. And the last example of this language resource is we have speech collection. It is used by many language teachers to improve their speech and voice recognition. So aside from that goal of this speech collection is to collect audio recording from different resources. So we can use these audio recordings as a language resource. Language resources are to be used in two different ways. We have the first one is the systems development. So development of systems, spoken or written language processing systems are based on the use of corpora. For example, the performance of the systems available for text retrieval and filtering or machine-assisted translation tools mainly depends on the amount of linguistic data that are to be used to train the system. So the more corpora or linguistic data is being created, then the language resource from that corpora will lead to the development of a new software application or program or creation of a database system. So here, all language resources can be customized depending on its purpose, like you are making a resource for teachers' consumptions, or it could be also for students' learning. So if the language resources are appropriately well developed, it will ensure efficient use of it and it will minimize risk within the system. One example of this system development is the development of an English-Filipino machine tools system. This is according to the study of the natural language processing with the help of the LaSalle University in the National Language Processing Lab. So in 2003, the Department of Science and Technology awarded a 5 million peso grant to the LaSalle University for the development of this English-Filipino machine tool system. So faced with limited resources for the Filipino language, the team has to build language resources and develop a language tools in order to complete the system. So the De La Salle researchers have created a hybrid English-Filipino machine translation system. So with the use of Corpora and different language resource, wherein in this kind of software will automatically translate English texts and documents to Filipino and vice versa. Natural Language Processing Research Team has already completed various projects such as Picture Books, which is a children's story generator, and MESC, a tool that measures children's reading comprehension. So the NLP was able to develop a project out of the different language resource they collect that will really help language teachers in terms of teaching students in language acquisition. Another uses of a language resource is the systems evaluation. Language resources like, for example, large-size corpora are used to evaluate and compare each other's systems which have already been developed, like, for example, information filtering, orthographic and grammatical check, and text retrieval. So these efficient and useful evaluations, which are based on appropriate and large corpora, are especially important to measure the changes and progress which had been made or to disseminate and increase the value of the results. Any language resource should be evaluated or will undergo testing standards to prove the reliability of such resource. In language education, resource design influences the effectiveness of classroom delivery of the curriculum and how the quality of resources are made available to the teachers and learners. It is therefore important that teachers and learners are provided with appropriate resource materials and are trained on how to use them. So this involves developing and mobilizing all available resources and then ensuring their full and effective use. In an ALT situation, especially where English is taught as a second or foreign language, there is often a need of an organization or what we call a resource center within a school system. So ELT department or educational network that helps with the development and use of resource materials. So what is this language resource center? So this one is established through U.S. Department of Education Title VI funding in 1990. LRCs are mandated to improve the capacity to teach and learn foreign languages effectively in the U.S. So these language resource centers created a common LRC web portal which provides a searchable database to all LRC materials, resources, and professional development opportunities. Here are the objectives of language resource centers. So the first one, we have to provide professional development opportunities for teachers. Second, to develop national oral proficiency guidelines. Third, to develop assessment tools for speaking and reading skills. Fourth, to develop and maintain communication networks among language teachers. Fifth, to develop and disseminate communicatively based language teaching materials, and the last, to develop an evaluation rubric for language programs. So we're going to analyze this LRC is like a data bank of all the language learning resources for any services in improving the nation's capacity for teaching and learning foreign languages through teacher training, research, materials development, and dissemination projects. So by just one click away for their web portal, you can search any language learning resources gathered by experts, publishers, and writers. It's just like the resources are gathered in one operating center. So, Language Resource Center is a facility designed to promote language learning both inside and outside the classroom. So, aside from that, LRC offers a variety of media and computer equipment, software, book, films, magazines, mentors, cultural events, and other resources to support the process of language acquisition. And now, may I present to you a research study about English Language Teachers Resource Center, a model for developing context. This is conducted by Ram Ashi Gary. So as you can see, we have here on the screen the figure to an ELT Resource Center model. In order to cater to the diversified needs of a wide range of center users, the resource center must have adequate facilities of all kinds. So for example, it has to have an adequate spacious venue to house the center facilities, the equipments to store, retrieve, and distribute materials, adequately trained people to work at the center, and a well-established network with people and organizations for receiving, developing, and then disseminating its materials and services. So the ELTREC has able to develop a theoretical model for developing an ELT resource center. So as you can see, this diagram represents the following facilities. We have the library, self-help facility, teacher training facility, material production facility, information facility, and advisory facility. So three of these 6 projects, namely library facility, self-help facility, and in-house material production facility, may be termed as equipment or hardware in the sense that they are based on hard materials and equipment such as print materials like books, like furnitures, computers, printers, and so on and so forth. While the last 3 projects such as teacher training facility, advisory and consultancy facility, and information facility may be called as expertise in the sense that they are function on the basis of the expertise available at the center. Why should we create a resource center? We need to create an LRC because it will organize our content or resources that will help us to easily locate the different data needed for our teaching. So here are the 4 steps on how to create a resource center according to Mark Kylans. So the step 1 is you're going to gather your content. Without content, there can be no more resource center. So make sure we need to have enough content in order for us to create a resource center. So we need to have 3 or more pieces of content in which people can download our resources. So for example, like blog articles, videos, multimedia presentation, or any textual content of a certain language topic. The second step is that you're going to decide on your layout. Your resource center should definitely have a dedicated homepage. So I know you are very familiar with what is homepage. So your homepage should highlight new or updated content or any popular content that link directly to your homepage, which people can download it easily. So if you have a lot of content, you should create specific homepages that group each type of content together. So for example, you could have a homepage that outlines all the resources, then one for all your videos, and one that lists of all your presentations. The third step is that your resource center enables social sharing. So it has to allow people to share its content, because nowadays people are going to find the content which is valuable to them and important, and will want to share it with their networks of followers. So here in your home page, you're going to put social media icons like the like and share button, the YouTube subscribe button, or the download button, so they can easily share it with the different networking sites or web portal. And the last step, we're going to promote your resource center. So the final thing you need to do is make sure many visitors can find and take advantage of your resource center. So you need to create calls to action that you add to your blog, website, and like thank you pages directing visitors to the resource centers. It will also would place the resource center in websites menu and promote it in your email marketing communications, and also you can have it by campaigns. Language resources are important for those working on computational methods to analyze and study languages. These resources are needed to help advancing the research in the fields such as natural language processing, machine learning, information retrieval, and text analysis in general. So language resources are no doubt important in the development of the English language teaching and learning. The use of these resources could be more valuable and powerful direction to the teacher than any professional efforts without the materials.